Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Okay, how disease starts in the body. Now, this is huge because we have a pharmaceutically controlled government, media, and educational system. So, if there's a pill for every ill, there's a powder, potion, or lotion for you. And I like this Will Rogers. Okay, if you want to look at it, I mean, they're starting to wipe out and change some of the media that you're able to see, but check out Will Rogers. The problem is it ain't so much what people don't know. The problem is what people think they know that just ain't so. Welcome to America. Okay, so now, well, that's not working. Wait a second. Okay, good. Yeah, this is working. Operating malfunction. If anybody knows, I've done several thousand of these and I still don't know how to use this. So now we are going to have a censored portion, and those that are watching on Dr. BVIP, God bless you. It's going to be going through, and you can get archives of this as well. The censored portion is not approved by the government or by the censors. Stream Health Academy. You're also going to get access to this. We're working out to where you can watch it as well. Those on YouTube and Facebook will not see it completely. Now, and I just wanted to put this up because the 4-dog defense and correlate it with any medical procedure that you've heard of, okay? And this is like every medical invention is safe and effective except when they're not. Okay, and the 4-dog defense is brilliant, okay? So this guy comes up with a dog bite, okay? Or you could say an injury from a certain medical intervention. Now, what are the doctors going to say? It never happened. First of all, I don't even have a dog. Then the guy says, no, your dog bit me. Okay, well, if I had a dog, it doesn't bite. Okay, no, your dog bit me. If I had a dog, it did bite, then it didn't bite you. No, your dog bit me. If I had a dog and it did bite and it bit you, then you provoked the dog. Okay, correlate this with any type of medical intervention that is forced on children to go to schools. Okay, just, you know. Okay, so this is the source of how disease begins in the body. And I'm going to present the Latin version, then I'm going to present the English for regular humans. Kinesio means movement. Path means problem with the movement. Ology means study of it. So when we say kinesiopathology, this is the study of abnormal movement affecting the body. And this could be altered biomechanics, something. And when you look at this, you've got a normal human being. Now, the nervous system is the only system that's completely encased in bone, the central nervous system. And you have certain structures that the head should be over the pelvis. It has a 45-degree, 36, 32-degree curve, and it's like this, so it's indestructible. So now if you have an alteration in movement, this can lead to a cascade of things, and this is the cascade. So first, an alteration of movement, number one. Then the nervous system gets kicked in. And this is really simple. So all you got to do, if you're sitting up, slide to the side. Let's induce an alteration of movement. So what do you first feel? You feel the muscles start to tighten up. Okay, but it's really when you do this, what causes the muscles to tighten? It's the nervous system. And if you've had some kind of trauma, the nervous system is going to react because the nervous system is the window to your environment. And this could be that sympathetic fight or flight or parasympathetic response. And you need that balance. But when you have a physical alteration, you're going to have a nervous system adaptation. This leads to the muscles. Now, the muscles that run down either side of the spine, and I'm talking from the skull down to the pelvis, on either side, about 3-4 inches on each side, they're not under conscious control. Like you can tighten and loosen arm muscles. You can't tighten and loosen these. They're under proprioceptive control, or how your brain views the body. But if you have an alteration in movement, bam, those muscles fire off. And this is where that stiffness and tightness comes from. The problem is, if those muscles tighten up, then you're going to change how the structure works. Okay, you're going to change what's called the histopathology. And this is the cell production actually changes, and this leads to disease. Now, when you look at this, the neuropathophysiology, the second part, so you have some kind of alteration of movement leading to an alteration in the nerves. Now, if you've ever heard of neuropathy, okay, which drives me nuts, I get so many patients in, they go, oh, it's neuropathy. Okay, this is a catch-all BS diagnosis. Neuropathophysiology. So neuro means nerve, path means problem, physiology means that how it's functioning, and ology means study. Affects the nervous system. Refers to a pathophysiologic conditions that affect the nervous system. A more recognizable term would be neuropathy. Neuropathy is not a single disease, but rather an umbrella term used to describe a host of disorders that affects various nerves in various ways. So wait a second, that's the second alteration. So first you get the movement alteration, then you get the nervous system, then you get the body's responses. Okay, so let's do this in English. Trauma and stress first. What could the trauma be? How about, Pitocin given to the mom? Or how about a birth trauma, knowing that C-section birth, 4 times the amount of pressure is placed on a kid's neck? How about the slip off of a slide? Has anyone gone here and done something their mom told them not to do? Like go down the slide backwards? You better raise your hand, sir. I know you did that stuff when you were a kid. Don't mess with me. Yeah, but what happens is, okay, did you get the wind knocked out of you? Absolutely, but we're not taught to look at the structure. Now, autonomic adaptation. Okay, so if you do have an alteration in the structure, your autonomic balance or your body's view of the time and space in the world, is it safe, parasympathetic? Is it dangerous? Is it safe, healthy thyroid function? Is it dangerous, adrenal dominant? So your body is going to respond based on the movement and perception of your nervous system based on where it's encased. Then you get the postural muscles, you get the change in tone. This is where the stiffness and tightness. Now, for every 1 inch that head's balanced, for every 1 inch that head's forward, the pressure on the disc double. Is the body smart or smart? Good, I'm giving you one choice. It's going to be an easy test. Okay, so the muscles back here fire up. And I had a doctor observe in a day, and she graduated from a school that didn't teach her chiropractic. And I said, and this is what I used to do to mess with students. So, here when I was teaching human dissection, you got a body here, and I'd say, okay, who here, and they're all chiropractors, want to loosen up that tight muscle to allow the body to accept the adjustment? And you know what they're going? Okay, yeah. And then smart ones are going, oh shit, don't pick me. Okay. And so, and I picked somebody with forward head carriage. And now for every 1 inch of forward head carriage, the pressure is double. So I'd say, is the body smart or stupid? Okay. Smart. Okay, great. So if that heads forward, these muscles are screaming to reposition it. And if you relax these muscles, which way is the head going to fall? Boom, further forward. So you got to find out why the muscles are firing, because if that heads forward, those muscles are going to be firing off. That's the third part. So you get structural problem creating a nervous system issue causing the muscles to fire off. Now, each one of these joints here are composed of discs, and the discs are incredible. 80 interconnecting rings of ligamentous tissue. When you're doing a human dissection, you can pass a probe, and it looks kind of like a pen, through the bone pretty easy. Bone's pretty porous. You can't beat it into a disc with a hammer. I mean, the discs are that tough. But the discs have a horrible blood supply. They get their nutrients through movement. So if you cut the whole body from here up off, and this is the pelvis, this is the butt area, okay, you're probably talking on an average human 80 to 100 pounds sitting on the size of a 50-cent disc. So those blood vessels there would be crushed. So it gets its nutrients through movement. So you have a trauma, causes the nervous system to fire off those muscles, causes the muscles to limit motion, and the limit motion literally changes the tissue production. So, and this goes everything. So when you change the tissue, the histopathophysiology, you're going to change the amino acids that you have, that you're going to build healthy ligaments. You're not going to be able to have those raw materials. So you're going to build a cheaper body. the disc gets compressed, and then the whole system distorts. So this means that's when you get the disease. And this is the absolute changes. So the diseases, and you could talk type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, fibromyalgia, all of these different diseases, they're not actual diseases. They're the end result of a process. Now, in crazy stupid world where we are, where they're doing chemical-based therapies. So any symptom you have, you get a chemical, okay, and you could call it a medication, but it's literally a chemical that has a myriad of effects. And these effects are to alter your adaptation to the movement, the nervous system, the muscles firing off, or the abnormal motion. And then that leads to the cell production off, and then that leads to the disease. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to run through a couple of cases. This happened a couple of days ago. Now, the heart has two nerve supplies. Is that opinion or is that fact? It's fact. Okay. Now, the nerves that supply the heart come out of the top of the thoracic and the top of the neck. This gal comes in and says, I'm concerned about cardiac arrhythmias I'm having, and my doctor wants to give me a pacemaker. And I told her, well, the heart has what? Two nerve supplies. We're going to see a problem here and here. And, her daughter was with her, and her daughter was not liking the stuff that we're talking about. Because I'm not a real doctor. Okay, I'm a chiropractor. Okay, I'm not pharmaceutically trained. Okay, in fact, I'm part of the largest drugless healthcare profession in the world. My profession thinks that the body is self-healing and self-regulating. Oh, wait, it is. My profession thinks that the body is designed to regenerate itself and will only adapt based on physical issues, neurologic issues, mechanical issues. Okay, and that disease is really an adaptation to physical, chemical, and emotional stress. That's my profession. Okay, I'm not going to go in there and prescribe a toxic chemical that destroys your body. So yes. And I tell them, I said, well, we're going to find a problem in both of those areas. So what you're looking at here is on the top of the rib cage area, significant rotation in the sympathetic nerves that supply the heart. We're also looking at a reversal of the curve. Now, based on the amount of damage at the base of the neck, this gal had a mechanical distortion over 25 years ago. Now, at 75 years old, minimum that is 25 to 30 years of injury. So this could have been an accident or trauma. We're talking 50, 60, 70 years ago. Could have been falling off a slide, could have been anything. Okay, I don't care. But I know it's plus 30 years based on the amount of damage and the reversal of the curve. So does that make sense? So that means that this girl has been under a mechanical distortion and a structural problem. Now, if you look downstream and you just say, wow, she's got an abnormal heart function, we've got to put in a mechanical device. And I'm looking that no, the body is designed to self-regulate. It's designed to adapt. So let's find, I don't know, the problem. Am I going too fast? No, the heart has new nerve supply. So I go in there and I'm showing her this. This is anatomy and physiology. And she says, oh, I really, I don't want to show any disrespect. Okay, this is the daughter. Okay. And I understand this is your opinion. I said, no, dear, this is not an opinion. This is anatomy and physiology. Okay, that's not an opinion that this thing is off. This is called an objective reality. With object means you have something to show that you can measure that's inter-examiner reliability. Any doctor that can't see this says you're blind or stupid. Okay, if you're looking at a structural deviation, you know that there's probably a problem. Wait, I know, say duh. I know, use that phone piece there, dear. Okay, so then, I asked her about injectables, but I can't talk about that. But 3 prescriptions. What do you think the prescriptions are for? Well, if the heart's not functioning correctly, they're really concerned that interruption in beat will cause the blood cells to stick together. And you got to be really, really careful, okay? But when you go from sitting to standing, guess what? Your heart has to go up, okay? When you pick up those bags or lumber or or anything, and you walk up, guess what? Your heart has to go up. You put them down and you deep breathe, the heart slows down. So the heart is always increasing, decreasing its rate and rhythm. But why not? Give a blood thinner. Of course, that does damage the kidneys. And now if the blood's not efficient, then the blood pressure is going to be high. If the blood pressure is high because does she have physical stress? Yeah, evidence of a 30-year-old trauma. Okay, that means the blood pressure is going to adapt. Wait a second. So we got the physical trauma. We know over 30 years of injury. We know that the nervous system is put her in a fight or flight state. How do we know? Because I measured the freaking thing. Okay, there's the nervous system. And then knowing that the head's forward, these muscles are going to be freaking out. And then what we get, you got 30 years of that. Then you get a disease presentation of cardiac arrhythmias, high blood pressure, and stress. Does that make sense? Do this on everybody. Everybody. It doesn't happen by bad luck or bad genes. You don't pass bad stuff down. Let's look at this gal, 23 years old. What do we got? A reverse curve in the neck with grade 2 arthritis. That takes 8 to 10 years. Does that body look straight or does it look like it has multiple traumas? Like all of us. You know, she had possibly a birth trauma, possibly cheerleading injury, whatever. You got a physical alteration of that body. The nervous system puts it in a fight or flight state. How do we know? We measure it. That is not an opinion. This is an objective analysis. And then what's she diagnosed with? Well, you know, leaky gut. Okay, that's something that you can see with the dark areas. But her histamines were amazing. Okay, and what you could do, look at anybody that's gone through certain medical procedures, you know. I don't know, let's say you're 18 years old, you're living in America, and you've had 72 doses of 17 different things that we can't talk about. Okay. And so when you look at this, their skin is going to have like a light pink hue to it. Now, you should be able to touch skin and not have it turn white. Okay. But if you see this and you press down and it turns white, that's histamines. And histamines mean that there's tissue damage. So tissue damage is a clue that the body's probably not functioning correctly. Now, let's see what, I hate to say CDC and not have angels go, ah, okay, because these guys are the gods of the planet, except they are funded by the pharmaceutical industry, the industry they're designed to regulate, and, well, that's the FDA. But, you know, they're also promoting a product that is forced on you. So let's just look at this. Now, under their tutelage and under our brilliant, brilliant medical system, 6 out of 10 people have a chronic illness or disease that they're never going to recover from. That's 60%. 40% of Americans have more than one of these. So let's look at the big 6. Heart disease. What do they say heart disease comes from? Atherosclerosis, which is hardening the arteries, which is the most common cause. So hardening the arteries is the most common cause of cardiovascular disease. Now, I'm saying that disease has a certain progression. You got to have an alteration in structure. That leads to an alteration in nervous system. That leads to a muscle imbalance. That means to histologic changes, okay? And then that leads to disease. Okay, disease is the end result. So let's look at atherosclerosis. So one, that's the most common cause of cardiovascular disease. What's it from? Unhealthy diet, lack of exercise. So that means a movement alteration if you're not exercising. What's cancer? Cancer, gene mutations that you're born with, and all the stuff you've acquired throughout your life work together to cause cancer. Really, we know cancer is not genetic based on studies, but you know they're still stuck in the old world. That's cool. Okay. For instance, if you've inherited a genetic mutation that predisposes you to cancer, that doesn't mean you're certain to get cancer. Okay, now, if this doesn't make any sense where they say cancer is genetic, and then they say it's from all the stuff that you've acquired, but then they say if you have that gene, it doesn't really mean it. Okay, don't worry, we're in California. Dude. Okay, COPD from some type of environmental stimulus. So you get the normal human being, they had some kind of environmental stimulus and your body adapts. Strokes, oh my gosh, most often caused by atherosclerosis. Well, that's also heart disease too. Now, hardening the arteries also carry the same risk effect for heart attacks. So strokes, heart attacks, and all from atherosclerosis. Alzheimer's, genetic and lifestyle environmental factors. So again, we're looking at some type of physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Type 2 diabetes, several causes, genetics and lifestyle. Lifestyle again, wait a second. So we've got multiple diseases here that are really the end result of a lifestyle. Chronic kidney disease and high blood pressure. Okay, so let's find out. Now we're in a world where somebody based on symptoms, because the doctor is smarter than your own physiology, is going to provide a chemical. Now, cholesterol is 50% of your overall weight of the brain. There is no good or bad. Okay, there's a couple of different protein carriers. Cholesterol is just cholesterol. And if you're thinking, no, my doctor says LDL is bad. No, low density lipoprotein is a protein carrier that brings cholesterol to the site of an injury. So if you have high low density lipoprotein, it means you got tissue damage or you need hormone production because you use cholesterol for hormone production. If you have HDL, high density lipoprotein, that is the one bringing cholesterol back to the liver for storage because cholesterol is really, really a complex thing. So ignorant doctors will say, ooh, your LDL is high. No, that means you have tissue damage. Ooh, your HDL is high. That means it's good. No, it means you've just repaired the tissue damage. Okay. And you don't get it from diet. 80% of your cholesterol is coming from your liver. You produce it. Oh, wait a second. In 2015, they said statins, cholesterol lowering drugs, increase hardening of the arteries and heart failure. Now, wasn't like 3 or 4 of the top 6 that 60% of Americans are suffering from the atherosclerosis? And is anyone in here a Star Trek fan? So if you're Klingon, you have 2 hearts, okay, so you don't got to worry about it. No, humans got 1. Okay, so why are they prescribing a chemical that alters your cholesterol function? What causes high cholesterol? Is it from tissue need? Is your body just stupid and you don't know that you're producing the cholesterol? Or is your body adapting to physical, chemical, emotional stress? Okay, David Sackett, brilliant doc. This was a quote at commencement speech years ago, and it's still true. Quote, half of what you'll learn in medical school will be shown to be either dead wrong or out of date within 5 years of your graduation. The trouble is no one can tell you which half, so the most important thing to learn is how to learn on your own. Whoa, okay. So does that mean that when one of my patients and this guy is like 83, rock solid, works out every day for the last 30 years, when he was 60, that he removed his prostate. And they said, high PSA, and when we talk about prostates, you're going to find out that that's not really an issue. It's just like smoke coming out of the tailpipe. And now his PSA started to go up. And he goes up to the oncologist that ripped out the prostate and he says, Doc, what's the deal? You told me if I had it removed, which you get a whole bunch of negative effects, sexual dysfunction, bowel and bladder issues, everything else, that it wouldn't be an issue. What did the doctor say? Well, we know a lot more now than we did then. Okay, no, I don't know if he slapped the doctor. I don't. I would just think that might be my reaction. So let's look at this. Remember, the source of disease, mechanical distortion, putting you in a nervous system or a sympathetic or stress state, leading to structural spasms, everything else, muscle alterations, leading to changes in the cells, and then that leads to disease. High blood pressure. Anybody in here check the blood pressure of the fish that's on the counter? Or the dog or the cat or the sheep? No, you're not going to do that because they regulate themselves just like every other creature on the planet. Okay, so high blood pressure, is this an adaptation to stress? And what is a normal blood pressure? Look at all our videos. Blood pressure goes up and down all day long. So it's not a disease, it's an adaptation. Irritable bowel syndrome. What happens if you're looking at inflammatory or irritable bowel? That means that there's going to be decreased blood supply to the gut. That's from a chronic stress state. Oh my God, that's from the nervous system. So could there be a mechanical distortion causing that? Absolutely. Okay, a fibromyalgia, 18 of 22 tender points in your body. There's no known cause of this. So do you think you want to look for a physical stressor leading to a neurologic stimulus, causing multiple muscle spasms, causing histological changes? Does that make more sense? Yes or yes? Okay. Oh, high cholesterol. Cholesterol is used for what? Tissue repair and hormone production. You get a doctor that says, I know what your cholesterol level should be. You're just a little human. What makes that son of a bitch, that arrogant bastard, okay, know more about your physiology? Is he going to look for the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors? Obviously not, because he gets paid for writing the prescriptions. Breast cancer, what side is it? 85% are on the left side. Could that be because the gut drains up to the upper left quadrant? 15% on the right. Could that be from dental toxicities and pulmonary toxicities? It might be a factor. We just read from the all-seeing, all-knowing CDC that it's maybe genetic, but maybe not genetic, but we don't know. Okay, yeah, look at the friggin' environmental factors. Okay, look at the body adapting. Since your body builds 1 billion cells a day, 10,000 of those are abnormal. So your body is a cancer-producing machine, and your body forms tumors for a certain purpose. So you look at the toxicities and deficiencies that you're exposed to. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, epidemic nowadays. But what is that? That's a frontal lobe dysfunction. This is anxiety, stress, depression, and impulse control. ADD, ADHD are all frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is programmed by the cerebellum. The cerebellum gets its influence from the entire spine and structure. If you have an alteration in structure, kinesiopathophysiology, that causes abnormal stimulus to the brain. Neuropathophysiology, that causes an alteration in the frontal lobe and that stimulus. Okay, so that's going to trigger the fight or flight mechanism. It's going to trigger all of this stuff. So that's frontal lobe dysfunction. How's the frontal lobe programmed? By the cerebellum. How's the cerebellum gets information from the spine? It's like, do you guys not take anatomy? What's the matter with these guys? I know they only take it for the first year, okay, and not even that, and not even really well. And then you learn how to do drugs. I mean, we had a cardiologist in here, and I said, look, doc, don't they ever teach you that the heart's got sympathetic and parasympathetic supply? Well, we're learned that in school, but then we're taught that we can give drugs to alter that. Okay, good. Difficult menstrual cycles. Do you think that there might be alterations in hormonal influences like endocrine disruptors, glues, plastic, pesticides that can alter the female hormone? Or do you think possibly there is what are we talking about? Mechanical distortion of the pelvis. You got the parasympathetic nervous system that's here and here. So if this person, dramatic effect, just fell, okay? They were cheerleading, they fell on their butt, they were skateboarding, anything. If you alter this pelvis structure and there is no muscle that crosses the posterior aspect, piriformis on the front. So if you damage this, guess what they're misdiagnosed with? Piriformis syndrome, or an unstable pelvis, or disc injuries in the low back. Now that sacral plexus supplies the entire pelvic floor. So what are you looking at? You're looking at sexual dysfunction. You're looking at difficult menstrual cycles. You're looking at all of that. Okay, so what was that? Mechanical distortion leading to a neurologic adaptation, leading to muscle spasms which alter the cell production. Erectile dysfunction, ED. Do you think that's from that area? Possibly could be. We know it's an autonomic dysfunction. And doc, do you know how we teach it? Point and shoot. Parasympathetic is the arousal, sympathetic is the ejaculation. Okay, so you got ED, man, you got that. I mean, guys can't even say ED. I once knew a guy that was so dumb he couldn't even spell ED. Okay, I know. Was that? Boy, sounded like it was funny, but I just don't get it. No, it's the old thing. It's like I once dated a girl that she couldn't even spell VW. Okay, so low back and neck pain. Obviously, this is a problem. Okay, it's supposed to function normally. Ow, it hurts. Mechanical distortion leading to muscle spasms, leading to alter histologic changes. That's why we're seeing the x-rays that we're seeing structural changes, and then you can call that disease. Crazy. We live our life through the nervous system. If you are in a balanced state, you can respond, squirrel, okay, you can respond to any type of stimulus. Okay, that was one of my favorite movies, by the way. But if you're in a chronic state of stress, guess what you're misdiagnosed with? High blood pressure, type 2, your liver's going to be breaking glycogen down to glucose, blood sugar elevates, immune system dysfunction. So all of that, these are normal adaptive procedures. And I've talked to doctors before. Have you ever found somebody with high blood pressure and looked for autonomic dysfunction? What do they say? We know the cause of high blood pressure. It's idiopathic. Think of idiot, okay? They have no clothes. If somebody says, yes, it's idiopathic, it means they have no clue at what's causing this, okay? And what is this? Comparative physiology. Further understanding the regulatory mechanisms linking sympathetic and parasympathetic and the immune system is critical for understanding relationships between chronic disease development and immune system associated autonomic nervous system function changes. Why isn't the CDC investigating autonomic adaptation when that's the source of most of the diseases that people are suffering from America? Survey says, yes, they are bought off. Good one. Yes, you get a prize for the front row. It's ridiculous. We know the cause. Okay, it's an adaptation. You got to look for the physical, chemical, and emotional. You can measure this stuff. Okay? Heart rate variability measures it very, very accurately. Okay, and we do pre and post measurements. It's fantastic. You can tell if it's sympathetic, normal, or parasympathetic. Think of how crazy this is. Now remember, the source of this, I don't think I've said this yet, mechanical distortion, followed by an autonomic adaptation, followed by muscle spasms and histologic or changes, and then you have the disease process. What are we looking at? 65 years old. Now this is super young. I'm going to be 63 in about another month. Okay, so I'm telling you, I think I'm going to peak when I'm about 90. 65, wrist pain, high blood pressure, headaches, anxiety, and insomnia. So what do you get if you have high blood pressure? 2 high blood pressure medications. Now, does this help oxygen to the brain or slow it down? Okay, it slows it down. So now knowing that the brain, little 2.5-pound brain, burns 90% of the body's oxygen, could this lead to certain types of dysfunction, like anxiety or stress? Yeah, all you got to do is read the label, okay? And you'll see it says it on there. It says anxiety, stress, depression, impulse control. I mean, this because you're, and I tell the patients what I'm saying, look, you put a plastic bag over somebody's head, what are they going to have? Oh, they're going to have a little anxiety. They're going to have some balance issues. They're going to have a bunch. Yeah, because their brain's running out of oxygen. Thyroid. Remember, if you have an alteration in structure and you're looking at a reverse curve in the neck that's been there for 15 to 25 years, you're looking at multiple rotational malpositions. So we got the physical structure causing, with the head being massively forward, causing tight, stiff shoulders, in-betweener shoulders, miserable, okay? Causing the histologic changes where we're seeing changes in the discs and the bones. Okay, and what does she have? She's misdiagnosed with high blood pressure. She's misdiagnosed with a thyroid. She doesn't have thyroid. She's got an adrenal dominant state. Why? Because we're looking at the histologic changes, the cellular changes based on the environmental stimulus. You got the physical structure altered, followed by the nervous system, followed by the muscles, followed by the changes in structure. Go on, say it with me. Wow. Okay, so now I know her medical doctor said, they got to shorten one of the bones in her hand, even though it worked 65 years and we must shorten the bone in the hand. And I've actually seen that. Don't laugh, man. When you see a couple of people that come in with a bone cut and they're just having one bone that's operating the hand, and they say, yeah, it hurt before they did that. Then they cut it and removed it. Now it doesn't hurt. Okay, now, knowing that the gut is 80 to 90% of your immune system, anytime you take a toxic chemical, it can alter that microbiome and lead to disaster. So what kind of things can alter the microbiome. Well, the chemical intervention that your doctor is going to do, blood pressure, sedatives, anxiety, antibiotics, pain relievers, statins. We already saw that cholesterol-lowering drugs cause an increase in hardening the arteries and heart failure. All you got to do is, I know this is scary if you're taking a drug, read the freaking label. Okay? Those aren't side effects. Those are effects. You give 10 people one drug, are you going to have one response? No, this is insane. New England Journal of Medicine and Harvard Medical School says the current system is so dangerous that you should not go for your annual physical. If you have a whole boatload of symptoms and you're really, really sick, then go, okay? Because it results in a battery of unnecessary tests. It's ineffective at presenting disease. Alan Gurrell says, look, since, it makes sense in theory, but since our therapies and interventions are so toxic, we need to change the way doctors are paid. Because if they keep prescribing drugs when you show up, and those drugs are incredibly toxic to your system, we need to change that fee for service method. It's just not working well for humans. And in fact, the more money you spend on the system, the sicker you get. There's an inverse relationship. So let's look at real doctor stuff. Okay, when somebody comes in, knowing that only 10% of the nerves that come off the spine, 10% of the nerves, 90% have no pain fibers. 10% do. So if the doctor says, gee, how do you feel today, Bob? Okay, they're getting erroneous information. If you look at a bunion formation, that bunion is not growing. This means that the foot is atrophying up. This means that the nerves that exit the pelvis are compromised. Now, if you have a foot like that, is your gait going to be normal and healthy or a little bit off? Would that be a mechanical distortion? Would that mechanical distortion lead to an alteration in nervous system? Well, you have a pelvis here, and that's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, you alter that parasympathetic nervous system, you're talking constipation or runny stools, right? It's going to be there. So when somebody takes this off, I say, wow, you got interruptions in sleep patterns, don't you? Yeah. You've got to look at this. The body gives clues. And one of the most brilliant doctors I ever worked with has said to find out what's wrong with the patients, you got to do two things: ask them and listen. Physical, chemical, emotional stress, you got to look at it. Now, look at your family and friends. How to recognize neurologic damage. Now, we had one of our patients that saw this, and a lot of this stuff has been censored, so I can't show a lot of the signs or explain the neurologic damage that kids go through. But if you see and you get one eye looking one way and one eye looking the other way, that typically indicates nervous system damage. If you look at dark circles, if you look at toe walking, and human beings should be able to walk like this. Toe walking is like this. If you see that, that is brain damage. Okay, and so what is that? This is a mechanical distortion leading to altered nervous system function. Leading to everything. But if you look at abnormal posture, you look at kids standing like this. They're not standing like this because they're badass. They're trying to drop the shoulder. They're trying to take the pressure off the pelvis. They actually think this is comfortable. It's mind-blowing that we're missing this. We're missing these clues. And doctors are the worst. They're not opening their eyes and seeing what's happening with their patients. Anybody that's been teaching for more than 20 years, I look at them and say, wow, you've been teaching for more than 20 years? Then you've seen the change. You know what they do? Yeah. And they look at the ground. We're missing this. This is how you check your kinesiopathophysiology, your neuropathophysiology, your myopathophysiology, your histopathophysiology. The end result is the disease. You got to look at how it starts. Number one, you got to get your nervous system checked. How do we do it? We do digital x-rays, nerve scan, heart rate variability. We also look at live blood cell analysis to see if the cells are separate and holding oxygen. And we do a thermography to look for chemical stressors. Vagus nerve, gut-brain axis. Now, wait a second. The vagus nerve, it begins here. It's one of the cranial nerves. It's the 10th one. It exits here. It goes down through on front and back of the esophagus. Okay, and this goes in, and everything it does, and it does the gastric motility, excretions, everything. That's only 10% of its function. 90% of its function is sensory. I mean, this should blow your mind because why do without digestion, you can't regenerate your body. Now, it's involved in control of mood, immune system, digestion, heart rate, everything. Okay. And it's one of the connections between the brain and the GI tract. So if you have alterations of this one nerve, what kind of diagnoses can you have? Gee, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, inflammatory bowel disease, and multiple others. The brainstem plays critical roles in mood and anxiety disorders. So that means that you would have to have a mechanical distortion leading to an autonomic dysfunction, leading to muscle spasms or alterations in physiology, leading to histologic changes, leading to that. Does it make sense yet? Okay, good. Gut-brain axis. That gut-brain axis. So if you alter gut function, knowing that neurotransmitters are there, this is how your body regenerates. What happens if you alter that gut? Autism, anxiety, depressive disorders, endocrine, immune system, brain fog, all of this linked to an abnormal gut behavior, emotional, nervous system, cognitive centers, all of this stuff. They're not diseases, they're adaptations. Regular exercise, you got to move your body every day. Why? Because movement stimulates that brain. And if you have symmetrical movement, you got symmetrical stimulus. You got asymmetrical movement, kinesiopathophysiciology. You got asymmetrical stimulus to the brain. Brain's going to adapt, okay? And then you've got the muscle spasms that's giving you the righting reflex. Otherwise, you're going to be walking like this. So this body's going to maintain your head level with the horizon. So movement disorders are huge. And it turns out that if you're movement deficient, or you're sitting at a desk and then you get up, you walk to the car, then you sit on the couch, then you get up and you walk to the bed, and that's your movement, your brain is going to be seriously nutrient deficient. Movement is a nutrient. Proper nutrition. Proper nutrition. And I know what you're thinking. God, Twinkies and Diet Coke, that's a vegan meal. No, it's not food. Okay, so let's look at this. If you get the raw materials in your system and you're able to assimilate them, in most protein complexes in animal cells that are involved in stress responses, the NFKB. Now, this is dangerous because this is linked to a number of different diseases. So we have stress, physical, chemical, emotional stress. Now, how do you deactivate this? Well, first, let's look at it. NFKB, it's involved in cancers. It's involved in hardening of the arteries, just like the cholesterol-lowering drugs, and about 3 of the 4 of the 6 things that the CDC says you're at risk for. Heart attacks, diabetes, allergies, Crohn's, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, septic shock, and AIDS. Wait a second. All of these different diseases have this thing indicated in it? Are these really diseases, or are they adaptations to a chemical assault on the body? So what deactivates this? Holy shit. Okay, nearly every fruit and vegetable. So does that mean that if you eat more plants and they happen to be organic, that it actually gives you the right raw materials and you might be able to build a healthy body? Whoa, I know what you're saying. Whoa, dude, that means if you eat right, you might get healthy? I know. This boy talking crazy. Okay, so sufficient rest. This is when your body regenerates. How do we know that? If you have poor sleep patterns, you're going to have elevations in cholesterol. Why? Because you need elevation, you need cholesterol for hormone production and tissue repair. Sleep is when your body regenerates. You got poor sleep patterns, you got high disease rates at 9 hours or more sleep or 5 hours or less. Sleep deprivation, physical, mental, weaken the immune system, higher disease rates. Why? Because you're not regenerating a healthy body. Prayer and meditation. Why do we put this at the end of each video? Because if you're able to get in that parasympathetic state, connecting with a power greater than you, if you don't understand that God exists, don't worry about it. He knows you do. Okay. Or she does, however you want to do it. Okay. But you've got to have this energy. You're more energy than matter. And we've taken the spirit and the energy out of the human being. Okay. And the ignorant physical medical world, they go in and they say, well, yeah, you're just a collection of parts. Really? So what's the most important part? The lungs? Well, that can't function without the brain, and the brain can't function without this. No, there's an interdependency. You have to look at it. And this, you work on the brain. Japanese study. You had a group of kids that had an allergy reaction to a plant similar to poison ivy, and they tested it. They had a bunch of kids in the room. They rubbed the plant on their arm, and then they rubbed one that wouldn't cause a rash on the other one. And sure enough, 100% of the kids developed a rash. What they didn't tell the kids, they switched the leaves. So these kids with their brain had to express a rash where they didn't have the stimulus and had to suppress it where they should. The brain, you master your emotions, you change your physiology. Cancer reversed, adenocarcinoma. These rats were going to die between 14 and 27 days. All the guys did was hold the rat. And multiple people, it turns out that if they're in your vicinity, if there's an energy about you that allows your body to exist. And all this stuff, this energy medicine, this thought process, this respecting your body, is going to come back when this stupid Spanish Inquisition is done. I mean, where you can't even talk about this. You know, look, man, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth revolves around the sun. And I can prove it to you. No, you say that, you'll be excommunicated. You'll lose your eternal place in heaven because you're disagreeing with us. Now, hell, you just lose your job, you lose your life, you lose your kids. What do we know? There's an innate inborn intelligence in the body that responds correctly 100% of the time. We know that your body is self-healing, it's self-regulating. 3% of diseases are going to be genetic, where there's a defect in building your body. 97% of the time, it's not. It's an adaptation. Genetic expression is how you choose, okay? You perceive your environment through the nervous system. I mean, it just makes sense. Now, we're going to get into the realm of dangerous, okay? If so just know that the source of disease, trust your body. So if you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube, God bless you. And those people that are supporting us on Doctor VIP, God bless you. Your work is appreciated and your support. Click on this, share this as much as you can. That would be really appreciated.